Right, I am here today and I'm starting because we've been chatting for ages before this. I am here with my best friend who is Jayne Denham. And I introduce you to this wonderful lady who is an amazing healer, an inspirational coach, and the writer and producer of her own one-woman show called Unleashed. And it was just absolutely amazing. I was there in the audience for most of the time, which we might talk about later. But I'm here to talk about our journey and the fact that on my channel, I have had one video that has literally gone viral. And this was the start of it all. And a lot of this is down to Jayne because she allowed me to put this on my channel. And it is with Jayne and her granddaughter. And this was also in Jayne's show as well. And the comments that we got over the past few months, some of them have been absolutely amazing. It's given people a platform to be able to talk about grief and loved ones that have passed and people's experiences with those once they have passed as well. And Jayne's journey is really all about that as well. She's done a lot of, as we all have, research, a lot of courses throughout the years. She's jumped into her own abilities and gifts as well. But along the journey, hers has been a long one, and it started with her husband dying and the grief that Jayne went through. And today where she stands, and I will say this, fully in her power through all of these experiences. And we wanted to relay some of the information that has come through and Jayne's journey to kind of put things in perspective from the video that was on my channel. And I will drop that into here for those that haven't seen it, because it is an amazing video.
You come in. That you come.
Who are you talking to?
That you come. That you come.
Ella, who are you talking to?
Grandad.
My daughter caught this video of my amazing granddaughter. She was just turned 2 at the time, and the video was shot 375 days after Nigel, my husband, her granddad, had died.
So welcome, Jayne, welcome, my friend. And if you'll tell people a little bit about what happened to, obviously, your journey through the grief and really where you've come to be an inspirational for a lot of us.
Oh, thank you, Melanie. And hello, it's Sunday. It's Sunday this morning in the UK. Hello, everyone. My name's Jayne Denham, and I, as Melanie quite nicely said, are all them things. And I believe I'm a lot more than that also. 7 years ago in this month, my life was a very, very different life. I was caring 24/7 for my then dying husband. My life was changing beyond all measure. He was 57. And all I felt at that time was just complete fear, but also I was on an automatic pilot type thing. Our son was 16 at the time. And, you know, Nigel started with backache the previous August 2016, just with backache. And like any wife, I told him to stop being mardy and crack on and, you know, do some walking. But his backache turned out to be a really aggressive form of cancer. And on January the 21st, 2017, Nigel actually died. So my life 7 years ago was a completely different life. To say that I'm grateful for that now, people will go, oh, how could you be grateful for that happening? I'll tell you for why, because we come into this world with nothing and we go out with nothing, and we all have our own life's journey. And I'm a big believer in the analogy that people, you know, you start off your journey, you're born with your parents and your siblings, and you go along life's journey, and people get on your train and they travel with you for a little while, and they get off, and sometimes people get on, it stops at another station and someone else will get on. And for a little while, you look out the window and you're sharing the same vision. And then you might just carry on and go through a dark tunnel, or you'll carry on in one, you're looking out that window and the people you're traveling out are looking out that window. And then what happens is, you know, the train stops, and for some people, their train terminates and they're not going to get back on your train, but your life train needs to keep traveling. Now that is a big statement in itself, because that has took me 7 years to be able to say that. My life's train is still traveling, and to say that I am grateful for having 20 years in the physical with my husband, who was amazing, and I'm not putting him on a pedestal at all, but we did have a great life. But to say in this 7 years on that I'm grateful for his death is a really bold statement for a lot of people to hear. Had he not have died, I would have never had my train wouldn't have travelled in a different direction. And the people that got on my train for the last 7 years would never have got on. I would never have seen the experiences out the window. I would never have become the person that I am today. And I'm just live a life of gratitude, and I am just so grateful for my life. And my spiritual journey started a little bit just before Nigel died, but he's, for me now, he's part, and you know this, Melanie, this is my life. I live a spiritual life. He's part of my spirit team. He kicks my arse daily. And yeah, so that's basically who I am. I probably didn't even answer your question.
Well, with that, if you tell everybody, obviously, when I put my course out there with what I say are beliefs, you know, with both of us doing hypnotherapy, past life regression, obviously, our spirit teams, what we see, what we hear, what we channel. Jayne and I are very, very similar. So our outlook is obviously one of the same. So when we talk about, you know, the fact that when we say that we're glad that somebody's passed over, like you say, some people are going to go, wow, I can't believe that you've just said that. But because of what we've experienced and what we still do experience every single day, you know, when I've said to everybody out there, you know, this is just one life, and we live a multiple, sometimes at the same time, which people again can't get their head around. You know, we've got those that have passed on that are always there. You know, they're just on a different level. I mean, it's like you know, you constantly get information from Nigel with him passing. And again, it's amazing when that happens. And a lot of people out there do understand that the fact that, you know, we've said before, whether it's a piece of music, whether it might be a feather, whether it's just the fact that you literally hear the person and the support that gives you, and it's like a loving hug, isn't it, to the fact of knowing that they're still around, and it's just the physical aspect that has moved on. Yeah. And you and your journey then, from once that happened, even though obviously you dark night of the soul, the grief and everything that you went through, how you managed to push yourself forward and literally move and start to open up spiritually. If you can just probably go a little bit more forward on that journey, how that happened.
Okay, so when in 2014 our daughter got married, and we downsized. Basically, she left home and Nigel went, quick, let's downsize so she can't come back. Excuse me, my nose is running, I'm clearing. Thanks, Nigel. So we moved to this little place that we did up, and And it was incredible. And I was stood in the garden and I had this profound feeling and this voice and this feeling say, you're not going to be here long. You're not going to live here long. And I was in the garden and I thought, oh, what's that? And it was just this real knowing that I'm not going to be in this place for very long. Now, that was 2014, and obviously Nigel got poorly in 2016. You know, the house, it took nearly 8 months to do the house. So he didn't live, I've lived here 10 years this year, and he only lived here a couple of years. But I had this profound feeling that I wasn't going to live here. And I actually thought, maybe I got that wrong. It was Nigel that wasn't going to live here for very long. But I realised that was twofold. That wasn't just, he's not going to live here for very long. It was that I am not going to live in this life for very long, this current life, this current reality that I was in with him and different things that were going off. So that for me was a realisation that out in the garden was twofold. It was also Nigel leaving this physical plane, but also it was for me not living spiritually where I was. You're not going to live here very long.
Mm.
And that was, and then sort of Nigel got poorly and I was looking after him 24/7. And I remember sitting in this very room actually, in the middle of the night, because it was a sarcoma cancer that affected his mobility. It was a sarcoma cancer in his groin that was growing at a really fast rate of knots that exploded like a nail bomb. And all the secondary tumours were growing as fast as the primary. And he found a pea-sized lump in August, and by October it was the size of a baby. So his whole body was filling up with cancer. And I had this realization that, I was sat in here one evening and Nigel couldn't get out of bed without myself. And I'd got out for the 5th time, and then you're never going to get back to sleep because you're too awake, even though I was exhausted. And I was like a Rottweiler with all his medication and his care. And 11:33 on the timer. And I was sat here and I actually saw Nigel's funeral. And if you can see where I'm sat, I'm actually, where I live, Melanie, and I actually live directly opposite St. Germain's Church. My front door is opposite the church door. And I actually saw in front of me the whole of Nigel's funeral, and I sat crying in the lounge. And Nigel couldn't actually get up, but he came in that night. I don't know how he got up, but he came in and he just said, "Come to bed, Jayne, come to bed. Why are you crying?" And I knew, and we hadn't really seen the consultant by this point because it all happened so fastly, but I knew he was dying. I was being prepared for his death even before he knew what was happening. And I knew that I was being cared for and elevated. And it was a juxtaposition, because I felt, I was fearful that Nigel was dying, but also I felt nurtured. I felt held. And then he died, and he died on the 21st of January 2017. So it's coming up to 7 years. I'm moving into the 8th year. It was a beautiful moment. Nigel had a beautiful transition into spirit. His death was beautiful. And what I'm here to promote as well is that what we don't talk about enough is death, because we fear death, we fear it. But it's the one thing that is going to happen to us all. We're all going to die. It's just the one thing. I might get done by a speed camera coming back from a meeting with you. That's just by the way. I know, I can't believe myself. But the one certain thing is that we are going to die.
Yeah. And I think the thing is around that is like we're talking about other things, we're laughing about it and everything else, and because we come from a completely different viewpoint, where death is concerned, we've both experienced the fact of what it's like to go home, and as I've said in other videos before, that feeling when you leave your body is just unbelievable. And if people just realize the fact that where we do go and where, you know, the loved ones are heading, we would be in celebration, in complete and utter celebration to the fact that they are going home, and what they are going to experience and what they are going to be feeling is like so joyful that we at this end shouldn't really be grieving. We should be having a party for them, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. And Nigel was an only child, and his mother was obviously, I mean, Nigel was 57 when he died, so his mum was nearly 80. And 18 months after Nigel died, I actually sat with his mum for 6 weeks before her death. I worked with her energy. I felt the energy of death coming into her body, and it starting to shut down, and it all closing down, and you know, just and she actually went into the same hospice as Nigel, and and I knew that she was coming to near the end. I hardly left her side for 6 weeks, and I knew that she was coming to the end. And the nurses, because I'd only been there 18 months before with Nigel, came and said, Jayne, we know Margaret's near to the end. The only thing is that we're really sorry, but it's in the same room that Nigel died in. I went, oh, thank God for that. He could never find anything when he was alive. Put her in the same room, he'll come and find her. And they were like,
yeah, yes.
It's like,
yeah.
And the thing is that I did actually sing to Nigel when he died, and then I did sing to his mum as well. So if you want to hire me for Kick the Bucket karaoke, I'm available for all that kind of stuff. But it was a beautiful moment. You know, both Nigel and his mum and him died in the same room, in the same place, laid in the same position with the same person, sat delivering them back home.
Yes, back home, yes.
And the energy in the room, oh, I've got total chills. Oh, I've got chills everywhere. The energy in the room when Margaret died, because I was more aware when Margaret died. I was in a longer time. I'd got skills myself for energy and energy healing. And when Margaret passed away, oh my goodness, I can't even tell you. There was just she and I in the room, and the light and the energy, and Nigel coming in, and Nigel's dad, and Margaret said to me just before she died, she said, "Oh, I think our Minnie's here," which is her sister, and she was.
Yes,
and she so was, and then and it was joyful, and it was just so peaceful. But what are the odds of mother and son dying?
Yes.
Within 18 months, in the same physical place, laid in the same physical position, being cared for by the same physical medical team. And hospices, by the way, I just must put out a shout that hospices are the most joyful places on earth. They're as joyful as maternity. Because we are not, you know, we're bringing a new life into this world, but hospices are delivering someone from this world into the next world. So it's kind of like midwives of the soul. So you see the soul leave the body, and then it goes on to the next life, and it's just like, oh, wow.
And I hope that people watching this will understand to a degree where we're coming from, and the fact it's, you know, like I've said before on all the videos that I've put out there, that, you know, when somebody passes, that initially, you know, heart goes out, love and everything for the grief that person has got to go through, obviously, because it is a process that somebody needs to probably go through. But for people not to try and be in that process for a period that is too long for them to do them good, or the others that have passed. I talk about this as well for those that have passed on, because, you know, the fact, when I've said before, you hold on to somebody that is that's trying to transition, sometimes we can like hold them back as well. But sure. as I said in the video with Krish, you know, I said that, you know, back in, I mean, we're talking a very, very thousands and thousands of years ago, you know, when we were talking about ancient Egypt and Atlantis and places like that, that when we were born, we went on a journey, a learning journey of how to die. And this happened at birth, from birth. And when people hear this, they'll think, wow, that is so weird. But if you really think about it, you know, if you prepare yourself back in the day, that child that was born as it grew up was prepared all its life to transition to where it went. And that transition through life is one of awakening, of coming to understand who we truly are, that we're a spirit, soul, energy in a physical form. And to the fact of being having that connection, having our innate gifts, which everybody has. And, you know, that transition can be from a child all the way to us passing, can be such a beautiful one when we realize that, you know, it's us inside. It's that connection to source that we all have, that we just end up going home, that we go back to. And that's, again, what you and I, our whole ethos of what we've studied, what we've researched, the courses, our connection that we have to guides and to source is all about that, and is to hopefully put that over to people and to get them into a situation of pure empowerment and realization of who they truly are, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
it's the divine being that you are. And excuse me, in the studies that I've been back to and the peoples and the experiences that I've had, they've been infinite and amazing over the last 7 years. You know, I've been back to no-thingness. I've been right back to before we were even here. And I know that's probably out there for a lot of people. And also, I believe, like you were saying earlier, it's like to explain it to how I'm feeling at the minute is that currently I'm tuned into the channel. I'm talking to you. It's like you putting your TV on. When you put your TV on, there's still 72 other channels happening at the same time. That's a little bit like life. Everything is happening, everything will happen, and everything has happened at the same time. So we're on a timeline, and you know I travel up and down timelines. But for people to get their head around that, and I have no attachment to people that don't, you know, you either choose this path, and I'm being quite flippant about my grief when Nigel died, because I wanted to die at the time with him. So I need people to understand that I have been in that place, in that 3D scenario where I can't see anything, and the realizations and the learnings that there are no bad emotions, and I'm quite as happy dancing in the shadows as I am dancing in the spotlight. I understand, and I'm sure that you will back this up. When I will say to you, I'm just doing some work in the shadows, and yes. I'm okay with that. I'm not depressed about it. I just know that there's something coming up for me. I need to shut myself off from the world. I need to close my doors, and because what happens is mostly is that people are looking for answers outwardly. They're looking for answers in the world, you know, in the cars, in the houses, in the holidays, in all the material things that they buy. But all the answers, everything that you need is within you. And that was the theme of the show that I put out, that came to me through spirit.
Well, because that is just phenomenal. I mean, I was there. I was lucky to be there for some of that process and to actually experience the end result, which was just amazing. Literally blew me away. But through your transition of grief, and then obviously you went on a journey of opening up, of finding, obviously, like I have been trying to find the answers, because it becomes insatiable, doesn't it? If you looked at our bookcases, you would see that's so. And we've both been on this journey, and yours led you, and your spirit team led you on such an unbelievable journey of what you did. Explain how, what happened and how they came in and what they said and where that went, please.
Which part? Because there's like, we need to do many of these. Let me just talk about Unleashed at the minute.
Yes, just talk about the fact of getting up at night in the middle of the night because you'd literally got all this download, this information, and just go into that a bit, how it actually was conceived, basically.
Okay, so last February, I believe it was the 4th, or from the 4th, I think it was the full moon in Leo. I had my car packed to go to a body, mind, spirit wellbeing show at a big county showground nearby. And so I'd gone to bed early, and as these things I always say, for me, I don't know how anyone else out there is, it's either 2:22 a.m, 3:33 a.m, 4:44 a.m. For me, it's mostly 3:33. It was a full moon in Leo. I'm a Leo. And I was just woken up, and it was just like and I always keep a massive pad at the side of my bed. I've actually got it here, Melanie. This was the original. This was the original download. So this is what I wrote on that evening. There are many more pages of all this. Yeah. But Nigel heads up my spirit team along with many other spirit guides, and it was like, to rewind that a little, I first started, you said hypnotist. I'm not a hypnotist, I work in the matrix. But 2 years prior to February 2023, I had seen myself speaking on a stage, mic'd up. I thought I looked like Madonna at the time. Perhaps I didn't. But I saw myself speaking to people just to tell them my story. And by my story, it's a story to inspire people to take inspired action in their own life. From an egotistical point of view, it's not an ego thing for me. I have no attachment to whether anyone comes or doesn't come, or likes me or doesn't like me. I've got no attachment to that. But this download came in on the full moon in February, and it's continued for the next 5 nights. And I had to be 30 miles away at 7 o'clock. Seven is really important, because the download started all about sevens. You're in the 7th year since Nigel died. You were born in the 7th month. He died in 2017. He died at 57. You're 7 now. 777. The sevens just kept coming in, and then the next night. I'm telling this really quickly because
yes,
how I waffle. Careful. And then the next night, the next morning, I went to this wellbeing show, and I was so tired because I'd been up all night writing. And one of my therapy friends came over, a healer, and she said, "I don't know why I've needed to come to see you today, Jayne." She said, I feel I need to speak to you. So I blurted it all out about, I've got to be on stage. I've missed a bit out, but I'll go back. Then my mum came in the next night and sat on my bed. Well, my mum was dead at that point for 33 years, which she just sat on my bed and just sort of woke me up, nudged me and said, "Lions and tigers and bears." And The Wizard of Oz was my favourite film as a child. And I said, oh my. But what's poignant also is that my mum's name was Dorothy. So Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And I was to tell my story since Nigel died and relate it to the yellow brick road being the path of life, and the fact of Dorothy finds herself in the middle of a storm, like Nigel dying, the storm, the grief, and in a strange land. Like for me, it was like sadness and fear and grief came to live with me, and I didn't know what to do. So I was in a massively strange land without my soulmate beside my side. And then I was to talk about the fact of, how did I get my brains back? Well, I'd studied and I read. And you know what happens, Melanie. You go on a course or you meet someone, a book drops in, a video drops in, you have realizations popping all over the place. So I studied really, really hard and did many things. learned to meditate, which was a lifesaver, because at that time when Nigel died, all the doctors wanted to do for me was give me antidepressants and sleeping tablets. And I was not going to do that. And then, like the Tin Man, you know, my heart was broken. How was I going to recover from having this broken heart? I mean, there were pieces of my heart all over this lovely house and home that we created together, and I couldn't pick them all up. I didn't know where to look, and I would open a door one day and I would find another piece, you know, a memory would pop into my head, and I would be back in the grief pit. So how was I going to regain my heart? And then, like the lion, and you know, the lion is obviously Leo, and I'm a Leo, obviously, look at my mane. How was I going to find my courage? You know, how was I going to find my courage? So I was to go on a stage and do that. I'd seen this also just going back in January. I was working in the Matrix, and I'd seen in January that I was dressed on a stage. I'd seen myself on a stage a few times in the 2 years, but I'd seen myself on the stage dressed as a tiger, which is bizarre because I'm a lion. So basically, I'm a cross-dressing lion. Not about that. So, you know, I'd seen myself, and then I thought, oh my God, I've just got to do this. And if I can tell you that the joy and the absolute knowing that this was a guided and a purpose mission, and it was a mission. It was a purpose-driven thing from my spirit team that I just felt completely lifted and carried. And I got some friends round and said, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And then on the 26th of February, that's the date that my mum had been dead for 33 years, I went to see one of my spiritual guides and have a reading with him. And before I sat down, he went, oh my God, what are you doing? So I told him what I was doing. And then the very next day, I booked a 444-seat theatre to perform something that I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just knew that I needed to do. All I had got at that point was this. And it was completely self-funded. It was like, you're not going anywhere. You've got to sell your bike. I'm a big cyclist. I had to sell one of my bikes. Sell one of my bikes to fund the theatre. I'd never been on a stage before. I was hiring a theatre. I had to go through the box office. It was all contracts I never read and just signed because I just trusted. There's people all over going, she never read a contract. You know, but I didn't, because I just trusted. And I thought, I know that I can do this, because what was happening also after the 5-day download during the full moon is that I knew that I'd done it before in past lives, and I kept seeing myself in this tiger suit, and I'd ordered the tiger suit in January before the download came, actually. And it just carried on. And you know, then we went out for lunch, and I said, I'm doing this thing. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just know that I've got to do it. And it continued from there. And I then thought, oh Christ, I'm going to have to get a professional producer and director, because I'm dealing with a grown-up theatre. I'm not just, because at first I thought, all right, I'll just go out and do talks. You know, I can do that. And they were like, no, it's got to be a full-on production, which, you know, it was.
It was. Yes, it really was. I mean, from having that download, and obviously, well, many downloads, and how many times things got put in and it got obviously rewritten and things added and taken away, all the information that you were receiving. But for somebody who has never, ever done this before, to have the gumption and the foresight to go out there and go, right, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a show. And it wasn't just a little show, I will tell you. It was in a great, big, huge theatre, massive stage, full lights, full production, everything. And what you did was and is incredible. And everybody that was in that theatre, you took them on such a roller coaster of a ride. People were laughing, people were crying, including me. And I know your story. I've been with you throughout this, but even I'm sat there, and it was just absolutely amazing. And everybody in that audience really went through such an emotional shift. And I know the comments that you've had afterwards, it was phenomenal. But you've affected a huge amount of people out there, including me, to think, wow, you know, from what you did, you are such an inspiration. And I know you've been that for a lot of other people out there, because people have said, wow, you know, if Jayne can do that, you know, I can just do something, you know, this or that or what. And lots of people have moved forward through seeing what you did. And I'm hoping that you will be able to put the whole of your show out there, either on Vimeo or your YouTube channel, so people can actually go on and watch it, because it is such a brilliant story that you take people through from your grief all the way through, and incorporating the Wizard of Oz through it, like you said, on your journey. And it was just, it was fantastic. It really was.
Thank you. And of course, it changed. There were things coming in. It never stopped coming in. The downloads from the spirit team, they kept changing the goalposts. And you know, someone gifted me a ticket to go and see Tony Robbins, as you know, and his you know, live event in Birmingham at the NEC, which I must have been the only person in a room full of 10,000 people. Yes. that had no clue. I knew of Tony Robbins, but I didn't know he did. But he gave me an insight into, you know, that a lot of the technical stuff that came into my show was from seeing what he did. But also he was talking at one point about flying his plane over Kansas. And he said he had to refuel in Kansas. And Tony Robbins, 10,000 people in Birmingham NEC, I'm getting the chills now, even still talking about it. He said the only thing to come out of Kansas, and I looked straight at him, and I was really quite close because I was gifted a VIP ticket. I just looked at him, and as he said it, I went, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And he also talked about Tigger at one point, and I'm getting the chills. And like I say, I found my producer and director through her energy, international singing star, vocal coach, amazing lady. I got back and I went and changing it all. So we changed all again. And I even sang. I did it. It's about just doing it. You know, we live in this world now which is very Instagrammable. Everybody's got perfect teeth, everybody's got perfect hair, everybody got perfect boobs. You know, oh my God,
we have.
Isn't it? It's like everybody's starting to look the same, you know, an identity, please. I know nothing about nice teeth, but what I wanted to inspire people to do was just to follow their heart and not live in fear, because what stops most of us doing anything is fear. Fear of the unknown. And, you know, people talk about, well, what if it goes right? Well, what if it goes wrong? Well, what if it goes right? And also, you know, whose perception is perfection?
Yes. Exactly.
And who's attached to that feeling? And, you know, and even if I inspired someone to maybe get up an hour earlier and take some exercise, it doesn't have to be something as big as what I did. Still can't. 90 minutes on the stage, folks. I was 90 minutes. 4 costume changes. But it, you know, it's just an incredible. I have never felt in my whole life ever, and I'm 58 now. I have never felt as connected, as joyful, as alive, as living on this earth in the moment as I did in that 90 minutes. And I went in, and there were many things on the couple of days leading up that the universe was really, really testing me. Source was really, really testing me. We didn't know when we were going to get into the theatre on the Thursday before the Friday it happened. We couldn't get a hold of the technical team. There was some debate about what time we could get in. It should have been from 10 in the morning till we finished. We didn't actually get in until 3 o'clock on the day. I hadn't rehearsed. I'd never rehearsed any of it.
Which I find that amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But the thing is that I came in from a different angle. I came in from the same door as the audience, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
And I stood behind that door, and I called in all my spirit team. I said, look, if you want me to do this, you better get underneath my wings and make me fly. And I had already been in the space and cleared down the energy and cleaned all the theatre out in a quiet moment. And, working with the technical team, I became a little bit like a diva. Yes. Don't say a word. I did for a little while. It was amazing. Yes. It was a great person to be for a while. Stop it.
Yes, I will attest to that. I was backstage and it was hilarious, but I let her get away with it because it was her night and her one thing that she was doing. But it was hilarious what she had me doing, telling me to go on stage and made sure that I opened the tops of the bottles of water for her. It's like, right, okay.
Oh, is it really?
I know.
And
it was funny.
Because I had never, meeting the technical team, there was no rehearsals. When I went onto that stage and into that auditorium, and it was, there were over 200 people there. And I also, halfway through the year, I got the thing, you've got to live stream it. So I was also, not only I was putting, there were people watching in Texas, Australia, Spain, it was also live streamed. But it was one of the hottest days of the year. And they said I was supposed to get in at 2, and then we had the call to say the tech team are on a training course, you can't get in till 3. And I'm going to the universe. Oh, all right. I mean, that for someone who was going on stage with just a music scape, not a script. So I had the music to keep me on maybe that would have been a good idea today, because I waffle. I had the music to keep me on track. But for someone that had never been on a stage before, and I did talk to the theatre about this, that could have thrown someone really off their game.
Oh, yes.
Really off their game, because I had everything down to a T. I knew that by 1:30 I needed to be in my car with all my costumes ready to go down. I had full professional makeup, as all that was all arranged. And I thought, no, this isn't happening. So I was like, I'll just put the kettle on, because this is all out of my control. And you're just seeing if I'm fully invested in this. I know that you've got my back. So just let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and I will say this again, it was a phenomenal feat that you managed to pull off, and pulled off with just a brilliance of putting that together. And to be anybody listening to this, I hope that you just take a little fairy dust bit of inspiration from Jayne. And this really goes to show you what we both believe, what we know, what we teach, is the fact of when you are fully invested and you know your higher self, you know your guides, you know the fact of where you're from, and you trust the process. You trust the process fully. You literally surrender to as much as you can. You to surrender to the process, don't you? Yeah. And the synchronicities that happen, and that people and the things that are just literally dropped into place. And Jayne will attest to this. I will attest to this. Just try it. You have nothing to lose, do they? Have nothing to lose whatsoever. Once you experience this, you will be blown away. You will be amazed, and it will just change your life, won't it?
Absolutely. It's the fact of, as I said earlier, that when Nigel died, that I came home that evening and he wasn't in my bed with me. But what got into bed with me that night was sadness, grief, fear, doubt, jealousy, rage, anger. And when you realise that we're all here to experience all of it, it's only the mind that tells us that, and society and parental conditioning and ancestral things that come through with you from other lives that tell you that these things are bad. Life is happening for you, not to you. So when you understand that life happens for you, and you embrace that sadness and you embrace that fear, and you go, what are you here to teach me? What am I going to learn from this? And it's yin yang. It's the balance, and then we're moving into an 8 year, so it's the balance of the flow of energy. And everything's an energy, the way you speak to yourself, the things that you put in your body, the things that you allow yourself to watch, the things that you allow to come into your ears, the things that you listen to. Everything that you put into your body goes into every cell of your body. So make sure it's kindness to yourself. Make sure it's love. Make sure you watch positive things. Stay away from things that make you fearful, or even walk towards them, because what happens is like, I used to be really fearful of driving after Nigel died because he drove everywhere. And it's a little bit like you lose that muscle, that driving muscle. And once you start using it again, or you start stepping into that fear, or stepping into the energy of whatever you're fearful of with courage, because people say, oh my goodness, aren't you confident? I'm not confident. Maybe I am. I believe the right word for me is I'm brave. I'm brave. And I'm courageous. And the beautiful byproduct of bravery and courage is confidence.
Yes.
So for anyone out there that is feeling anything at this point in time in their human existence, in their human experience, just remember that this too shall pass. It always passes. And for when you're feeling down on, you're feeling dark, just look for the light. And if you can't find any light, light a candle. And just know from myself, I want to say this to everyone out there, from someone who really didn't want to be here. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to be. To feeling this complete joy of life with all its ups and all its downs. And as I said earlier, I'm just as happy dancing with sadness as I am with joy, because that's just part of what we agreed to come here to do, is to experience this humanness, this joy of just being in this amazing, amazing planet.
Yes. I think that's the other thing, is that people don't realise this, is once you start to go down the path that we are on, there's no going back. Absolutely no going back. Somebody left a comment the other day who said that, yes, okay, how do we awaken? And once we're awake, how do we stay awake? And I went back to her and I said, well, that's it. If you're awake, you are awake. It's like I've always said, it's like taking the top off the bottle with the genie in it. You're not pushing it back in. It is, once it's out, it's like Pandora's box. You are awake. But the biggest thing is the frequency aspect of it. is obviously, like, as we both know, is maintaining a higher frequency as we possibly can, which even you and I, we don't all the time. Like you said, we work at both sides. We work in the light and the dark.
Mm-hmm.
But having the knowledge and the awareness that we do that, but also having the knowledge and the awareness and the ability to be able to play with both and to walk through them and to understand them both.
Yeah.
That's where we want to assist people, is to understand that, yes, that is the humanness. That's us being here. We only experience that here, that duality, that emotion where we go home, when we're on a different frequency, you know, a higher plane.
Yeah.
We don't have that emotion, you know. It's just love. It's just pure unconditional love. And it's only here, when we come into the humanness, that we have to negotiate the path of this. And it's that path. It's like the yellow brick road, like you say. It's everybody. It's all those that are lying down the side with, like, Dorothy at the bottom. You know, it's putting your shoes on, isn't it? And really walking the walk.
It is, but also, you know, the Wizard of Oz in that story was like the rest of the world, you know, people telling you what you should do. Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow all thought that the wizard was going to be their answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That the wizard will tell me what to do, or I don't want to get too far, but the government or the world or outside things will dictate what is going to tell me to do. The journey, the yellow brick road, is the inner road. It's the inner peace that you find. And like Glinda, the good witch, said to Dorothy in the end, when she had her ruby slippers on, you know, you always had the power, my dear. You just had to find it out for yourself. And we are like, you know, we're all as individual. Our DNA, our essence, our soul, what we're here for. We're all as individual as snowflakes. Each snowflake as it falls is different in how it falls, but we all fall together and we're part of this consciousness. And if we roll together, gosh, can you imagine that snowball that we could create? And you know, if you and I, you individually, me individually, and us together, I know that people watching this are going to get some high activations, some high lifting. They're going to be lifted very, very high in their frequency just by watching, whether they realize that or not.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But yes, it's about the path of life.
Mm. And what a path it is. Jayne and I experience synchronicities literally every single day, and not just one. Multiple things that happen to us that we still sit there and shake our heads at the things that occur and that are put in front of us. If we told you some of the things, you know, like you would think we were making it up, but this is what happens when you're on this path. And I know that I keep going on about it, but, you know, people don't have to realize, because that's their journey. But if you are in any shape or form interested in opening yourself up and finding your true nature and who you are, you know, I would wholeheartedly suggest that you step your foot in, and especially in 2024. Because this year is going to be one big year of the where we're going and the connection that we're all going to have. So, you know, at least give it a go. You know, don't like poo-poo it and think, well, maybe that's not for me, but maybe it is. You know, who was to say years ago? You know, I never ever in a million years thought I was going to be where I am today and what I've experienced, and my gifts, my research, all the spiritual side of that. It was not me at all. And I'm sure that you will say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. But I live a life now. I've lived on my own for 7 years, moving into my 8th year now. I am so grateful. I am just so grateful. It's like it's like I live this existence where if I get up at 3:33 in the morning, the lights are all on. I mean, you know what me, I've got a disco ball in my lounge. I've got disco lights all over the house. I've got a boom speaker I live on the corner. Actually, the only people that are my neighbours are the dead people in the graveyard across the road. They've already woke up because they've gone home. But you know, I live in a corner. I don't have anyone around me, so I can get up. I've known to get up in the middle of the night and start a disco because that just brings me joy. You know, and you know myself, you know, dressing. I love to dress up as different characters. This is how I got my heart back by playing. And yeah, oh God, we've got so much to talk about. We can't possibly do it in one sitting.
No. I think people will have gathered from this that you know, a lot of where we coming from and what we both do, and we have an amazing time, whether we're on our own or whether we're together or what is happening. And even the fact of our guides, you know, they do some funny things, and they'll make us laugh. They'll give us messages. Jayne will say, I've got this for you, I've got this message for you, or I will see this. It's just a beautiful synchronistic thing that we both go through.
Yeah, it is. And but also, I mean, one of my huge things, especially with the show that I did, was to promote the fact that spirituality and feeling this connectedness to source, or whatever you want your source to be, whether that be Buddha or God or Allah or whoever you want your God to be, what believe in something, it can be great fun. It doesn't have to be all sitting down like Buddha with your legs crossed. And, you know, but I can do all that. That's great. I do all that. And I've got some great pictures of me sat like Buddha on a mountaintop. And I was feeling quite in the moment at the time. But also, I've got some great pictures of me dressed as a nun with my blow-up boyfriend. So
and people at that point in time are going to go, oh, interesting.
Was it the show?
Well, I was going to say yes. We'll leave that for another show.
But what I think is that it doesn't all have to be weeping and wailing. Healing, raising your vibrational level is about play and fun and laughter. And yes, there are times when you weep and wail, but oh God, the joy of laughter. And I love what society deems as inappropriate humour or dark humour. Honestly, dark humour is the best. The thought bubbles that were coming out of my mind when Nigel was dying and in his funeral were, honestly, they're in my journal. You know that I intend to write my book this year.
Yes.
But oh my God, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's just like life.
Exactly, yeah.
Funny.
Yes.
Death is funny.
Yes.
It is. And I know people say, oh my God, that's so insensitive. We're all going to do it. It's going to happen. And it's just, that is just the one certainty, isn't it?
Yeah. It's getting away from the fear of it. And it's like we've said, if you can step through the fear, then you can live. And when we say live, we mean truly live, you know, to step into your purpose, your power, the whole reason, the whole essence of you having this human experience. And that's not for fear. That's not for the fear of death. That's, you know, it's for the joy of living.
For the joy
of living.
Yeah, it's for the joy of living. And I am also a believer, and I know this, that I'm also operating on so many other dimensions at the same time. I'm having a good time all over this universe. Honestly, I don't think there's any little being in this little universe or the galaxies, or maybe there's a few. But I'm having great fun on different planes and different. It's the old sliding doors film.
Of course it is, yeah.
You know, there is things happening and people happening and things lining up for you. You should see what I'm lining up for myself this year. Can't wait. But there's all these things happening at the same time, but they've already happened. Things already happened, like I said. Things happening now. Things happening, but you know, you can go there subconsciously and in your mind. But where the joy is as a human is right here.
Yes. Yes.
With
Totally.
you, Melanie. My little star seed.
So I hope and I know that you've all enjoyed this conversation. And it's like I said previously, if Jayne has just given you an ounce of confidence and the fact of to just go out and do something that you've wanted to do, but maybe fear has held you back. And we ask you just to go and give it a try and do it anyway and see what and the amazing outcome will be. So just to finish on this, if you have enjoyed our story, and this is just a fraction of Jayne's story, my story, our energy, the pair of us are coming together in September, along with Krish, who is on another video. If you go and watch him, he is an amazing soul. Phenomenal, isn't he, Jayne? Just unbelievable.
Well, anyone that decides to go on to come and join us on that retreat is going to elevate. Oh my goodness, they're just going to have the most incredible experience of a lifetime. To experience the triangle that is myself, you, Melanie Jayne, and Krish, to experience and to be sat in the energy of that triangle, and being lifted and comforted and taught and guided. Gosh, I'm excited.
Yes,
Excited. I'm excited for you, all of you that for the souls that are going to be with us in September, and I hope that's you. I hope that's you that's watching, because but please bring your laughing gear.
Yes.
It's not going to be, I'm sure there's going to be the serious flow, but there's also going to be laughter flow, and there's going to be a lot of activations and realizations and inner healing and elevations.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel that I've got tingles. Oh, chills. I've got chills everywhere. So if that's you and you feel like you want to join us together, in September.
Mm-hmm. If you were, I'll put the link down below, but to the retreat. It is an amazing property, beautiful inside. You can see the photos. There is plenty of areas for your downtime. It's got a pool. It has hot tubs. And the reason that I've had it in a place like that is because when you're not with us, then you're going to need relaxation, downtime, enjoying yourself, because with all three of us and what we're going to be putting out to you and obviously putting you through the process of awakening, aligning, stepping into your own purpose, your energy is just going to be stratospheric. You're going to be blasted. It's going to be blast off. Yeah. So you have got the opportunity to relax in those beautiful surroundings with us. And like Jayne says, I just so look forward to having that time with everybody. So check out the link below this video with the retreat. There are limited places. It is a small place. We've done this on purpose. There is only 12 rooms. So if you want to, you better get in there quick. But you will be blasted. Like I say, you'll have the most phenomenal time and you will be put on a completely different level.
But all the rooms are en suite.
Yes.
So you've got your own space. It's a beautiful, beautiful property, isn't it, Melanie?
Yes, it is.
Truly beautiful, set in stunning woodlands. So yeah, and there's going to be amazing food.
Yes, there's going to be some fantastic food there. We are lucky to also, with Krish, because he's from Nepal, and Preeti, his wife, is going to be doing some beautiful Nepalese food as well as lots of other food that's going to be prepared. So you're going to be properly treated, 5-star. We're going to look after you. We're going to help you to move to the next level. So, like I said, we're all so looking forward to seeing those souls who come and venture to the next level with us.
Excited.
It is. All right. Well, I say thank you so much to you, my wonderful friend, for putting your story, well, the little bit of it, so obviously there's lots and lots more, but just to put that out there to give people hope, inspiration, and something to really aspire for them to be able to step into their true being. And I thank you for all that. And I really do, because you're a massive inspiration.
Oh, thanks, Mo. Love you.
I love you too, dear. And on that note, I hope everybody's enjoyed this. And like I say, hopefully we'll be having an amazing time. Well, I know we will in September, with the souls that are going to be with us on that. And I look forward to our journey in 2024, because we have got so much to do and so many people that we're going to be bringing in. So, yeah. Brilliant. All right. Thank you, Jayne. Love you.
Love you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Namaste.
Bye.